Well, it's lovely, lovely to meet you.
Glad to meet you too. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I'm doing very well. Yesterday was actually my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have some questions, and so can you start by introducing yourself, telling us a bit about your background and what inspired you to become a writer?
sure, sure. My name is Vivian Kirkfield, and I my my biggest dream when I was growing up was to become a teacher. And so I become a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
And the reason I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, mostly, I loved picture books. So I knew kindergarten teachers would be reading lots of picture books. And I loved working with children, but also I'm pretty short. And so I knew that if I was teaching kindergarten, those kids would not be taller than me.
yeah.
So I was very happy teaching kindergarten. So I was teaching kindergarten and reading lots of picture books, but it wasn't until I retired from doing that and my son gave me a very unusual birthday gift when I turned 64. All
Hmm.
right. So now I just turned 77. So 15 years ago, he gave me a present. Do you know what he did? He took me
What did you do?
skydiving. Yes, I jumped out of a plane and it was so
Well,
exciting. Whoa, I know, like who would do that, right? It didn't
it seems very
happen.
exciting. I would do that.
And I had a new dream. You know, we all have dreams, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you have dreams. I had dreams. I want to be a teacher. But when I got older, I had a dream. I wanted to write books for children. And so I thought, you know what? If I can jump out of a plane, maybe I could write books for children. And that's when I started writing.
Well, that's a lovely choice of you because
Yeah,
these books are now entertaining people worldwide.
I'm so happy. I'm excited about that. Yes.
Yeah. So what inspired you to write from here to there?
Okay, so that's also a very interesting story. I think most stories have a story behind the story, right? Of how
Yeah.
that story came to be. So I was writing, right? I was writing stories, manuscripts, and I had a few, one, two, three books already published. So I was very excited. That was lovely. And my sister, we were talking on the phone one day, and she was telling me about this guy who came from Sweden like 100 years ago,
It's
and
a
he
long
couldn't
time.
speak English. Yeah, a long time ago in 1905. He couldn't
Oh,
speak
wow.
English because he was from another country and he had hardly any money. But, you know, he wanted to come to America for opportunity,
The land of opportunity.
land of opportunity, right? So he got different kinds of jobs and he was very
Uh,
unsuccessful. And he finally wound up, he had saved some money because he was working. Um, and he saved his money and he bought a car. So this is in 1914 when there weren't many cars, just a few cars. So he bought a car. He wanted to sell it, right? He had like a car dealership,
mhm.
right? He was going to sell cars. But he was doing it in a little town in Minnesota where it was very cold. And the only people that lived there were very poor miners. They didn't have any money, so nobody bought his car. So you know what he did?
What?
He bought the car and he started giving people rides. So he would pick them up in the town and
Oh
he
yeah,
would,
there's a part in the book about that.
that's right, that's right. And it's about the guy, right. So and he was giving them rides for 15 cents from the town to the mine because most of the people who lived in the town worked in the mine
Yeah.
and they didn't want to walk 2 miles in the hot sun or in the snow. So he drove them. And it was so popular that he earned a lot of money. He bought another car and he hired other people and it got more and more popular and spread spread and it became the Greyhound Bus Company. So I thought
So
that
he
that was a
invented a
really,
bus?
well, he actually built a bus. Yes, he
Ah,
built a bus, and but then he bought buses after when it became more and more popular. So I thought that was a great story, especially for children to know that somebody could come from someplace else. They don't even speak the language, they don't have any resources, but you know what? Through hard work and ingenuity and creativity, and he never gave up. He built a company that is still in business, right? That
I know.
company built
You build a company out of nothing.
out of
That's something that's
nothing.
that's something that takes real hard work and perseverance.
Exactly, exactly. So I wrote that story. My agent sent it to an editor, and the editor loved that story. But she said she wanted more stories like that for like a chapter book.
Yeah.
And so she said, yeah, maybe you could write one about the car, maybe you could write about the rocket, maybe you could write about whatever. So
Hmm.
I chose 9 stories that show how innovative people
Hmm.
can invent or create amazing things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that book came to be, from
Mm.
one story, but then the editor wanted more stories.
Well, that was a I can't I mean like of course she wanted more stories because I mean when you think of that one story that's so like it's so interesting. It makes me want more of those. And so I understand
And
what you wanted.
yep, and I'm hoping that when kids read it, each of those stories, or one of those stories, any of those stories, they'll be curious, like, huh, wow, what could I invent? Or what could I create? Or, what did that person have to do in order to whatever they did?
Yeah.
And each of those stories is like so really interesting. Not because I wrote it, but I really think they're interesting stories, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how that story came to be.
Mm.
Um,
So how did you come up with the title?
yeah, so that's another interesting story. See, I told you, Aria, there's a story behind every question, right?
Yeah.
So the editor said, I want a book about things that go, like the bus and a
Yeah.
train and a car. And so in the beginning, she was calling it Things That Go.
Hmm.
But then she decided she wanted it to appeal to older kids, not
Hmm.
just like 4-year-old kids, but she wanted like 8-year-old kids and 9-year-old kids and 12-year-old kids, and to enjoy those stories. So we decided to call it Things That Go, Things That Move, right? From here to there, right? Because it was
Yeah.
supposed to be things that go. From here to there, because each of those inventors here from here, and
And then
they brought it to
put
there,
it
right?
here. Yeah.
Right. So that's how we came up with the title. But it's funny because when writers write a story, sometimes they work so hard on the title, and then the editor changes it anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it's good to have a good title.
Yeah, it is. And well, I mean, sometimes it's just the title is like what I usually do when I choose a book is I read the title and then I look through the summary. I think if it's going to be interesting for me or not. And so that's why the title is so important for
Right, right.
people.
Do you like a long title, or do you like a short first title and then a longer subtitle? What kind of titles do you like?
I mean, I just read a title and then usually when there's a subtitle, it like digs deeper into the book. So, but I mean, the summary also does that. So not really, I don't really have a favorite. I haven't
Okay, all
actually thought
right.
about
It
that.
just has to strike you, right? It just
Yeah.
has to hit you, and you say, "Oh, this looks
Whoa.
Whoa, yeah, whoa, this looks interesting. Yeah. Okay, good.
Um, what is one piece of advice that you could give to yourself if you went back in time?
Yeah, so if I went back in time, I would probably tell myself, believe in yourself more, right? Because
Mm,
when you're young, you feel, I mean, you have to listen to your parents, of course, and
yeah,
your teachers, of course, and other people, of course.
of
And,
course.
and sometimes what they say and what you are thinking isn't always the same thing. But of course, you have to obey and follow the
Yeah.
rules. But I think even when we're young, we need to have a knowledge of what we believe in,
Mm,
right? What we believe in. Like, we believe the world is really a good place, even though there are some not nice people.
yeah.
But the world is a good place. We believe that everybody is entitled to have a safe place to live and food to eat.
Mm,
So I think we have to have certain beliefs, and no matter what other people are saying, we can hold those beliefs in our heart, right?
true.
And when we get old enough, then we can do what we want. I mean, you can't do anything you want, but if you're doing good things, we don't have to follow what other people told us. We
Mm,
can go out
yeah.
on our own path, right?
Mm,
So I think I would tell my young self, believe in yourself more, that you're capable of doing anything, right?
anything, yeah.
Anything.
Well, that's actually I've never actually heard that as a piece of advice to yourself. That's very heartfelt and that's very that's very like from the heart.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a very heart person.
Mm,
I
yeah.
love people. I love people and I love helping people. I
It's
love
a very
helping people.
important
I
part.
mean, it is because once you have some success in whatever you're doing, so even as a child, I mean, even young people, if you're really great in math and you have a friend who's not so good in math, you could help that
Hmm.
friend, right? Or whatever, or learn to ice skate or whatever. I mean, things that you can do, if you get good at them, then you can help other people. So I think that's
So,
really an important thing in life,
mm,
that we keep doing that,
mm,
no matter
yeah.
how young or old we are.
Yeah. My my dad says to me all the time, um, you if you want to do anything in life, you're gonna have money. Even if you just want to help other people, you're gonna need money. Because to get them what they need or to give them the money, you need money first to
Yes,
to survive, and then you have to have extra money to give to them.
right.
You can't
Yes,
be broke and be like, oh yeah, here's $2,000. Where are you gonna get those $2,000 from?
right, right, right. So you just can't lay on the beach all day or
Yeah,
whatever. And
hard work.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, but
experience.
I think what's really great is if you find out what your passion is, like my passion is, I guess it's really helping other people, but writing. So I help a lot of writers, but find out what your passion is, discover that, and then find a job, some kind of work that you can do to use that passion to make money.
So I noticed all the illustrations in the pages. They were so nice. So you and the illustrator, did you like tell him what you wanted on each page, or was it just like over here he was like, oh, let's do this.
So that's a really great question, too. You ask very good questions. So if I was self-publishing, that means if I wrote stories and I was just going to go and have the book printed up, I would have to hire an illustrator, and I could tell that illustrator, I want the colors to be blue and purple, and I want green on this page, and I want the lady to wear a bow in her hair. But that's if I do it myself. But if I'm an editor at a publishing company is going to publish that book, and I'm not the illustrator, I'm the writer, I'm the author, so I just do the words. It's the editor at the publishing company who hires the illustrator. They usually choose. Sometimes they ask you, oh, here's 3 illustrators. These are the kind of drawings they do. Do you have a favorite? Or they might not ask you that. They might just say, from here to there was Gilbert Ford. Gilbert Ford is going to be the illustrator. He'll go look at his website, and we hope you like it. Right.
Yeah.
And fortunately, Gilbert Ford, yeah, right. Gilbert Ford is an amazing illustrator, but I had absolutely no contact with Gilbert Ford. He got the stories. He read the stories. He loved the stories, and he drew the pictures. And I got to see early sketches. So most writers, unless they are self-publishing, doing it themselves, paying it for it themselves, they really don't have much to do with the illustrator, which is really interesting, right? Because you wrote the story and it's the
And you
story
don't
of
even
your
get to
heart,
design the illustrations, yeah.
right? And if he wants to use purple or green or orange or pink or whatever he wants to
He just
do,
chooses.
and if he wants to draw the lady who's in the car, like with her hair up, that's what he's going to do, or her hair down. I mean, he's going to decide.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like once you have this like deal with the publisher, I feel like from what most authors tells me it sort of feels like the publisher almost sort of owns the book.
They do own the book, yes, because you sign if it's traditional publishing, not self-publishing, but traditional, like an editor sees the manuscript. All right, great, I love it. I'm acquiring it. So the editor, the publishing house pays me a certain amount of money in advance, right? And it could be nothing if it's a very tiny publisher, or it could be $1,000, or it could be $5,000, or if you're a famous person, which I am not, but there are some authors that get many, 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 many thousands of dollars, right? In advance. And then the words go to the illustrator, right? And now the illustrator gets busy doing the illustrations. When the book comes out and they sell copies of the book, I don't get any more money until they have sold enough copies to make up whatever
The
they
money
gave
they
me.
gave you.
Right. So let's say they gave me $100. Let's just say they gave me $100, and for every book that gets sold, picture book, I'd probably get a little less than $1, because the rest of the money, well, the illustrator gets some of that.
Some of it.
The publisher, the printer, the shipper who shipped the things, the bookstore person who's selling them, right? So everybody's getting a piece of that 17.99 or however much picture books cost, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, technically it's yours, but
Yes, but technically, but once you sign, unless they're doing a terrible job, unless the illustrator is doing something bad, like because it's nonfiction, it has to be accurate, right? I mean, he can't show the
an
story,
airplane painted purple.
right, or that he can't show the story of the woman who drove the car in 1880. He can't show her wearing a miniskirt or shorts, right? Because women didn't wear that in those days. So he has to be accurate, right? He has to be accurate. He can't show a jet plane flying overhead in the pic because there
There
weren't.
were no jet
Right,
planes that time.
right, there were no jet planes. So he or she, whoever's the illustrator, has to do a lot of research too, not just me, the writing, but the illustrator has to do a lot of research. I know, wow, right? but yeah, so like I think picture book writers don't make a lot of money, so they
Mm,
have to really love what they're doing. They have to be passionate about it.
true.
Yeah.
Um, if you could give other people who are just starting to write one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Uh, that piece of advice would be READ. Read
Yeah,
and
I've heard
read
that a lot of
and read
times.
some more. And that's the thing. If they want to write picture books, they should read lots and lots of picture
Of
books.
picture
If they want to
books.
write chapter books,
I
they
should
should
read
read
lots and lots of
lots
chapter
and lots.
books.
Want to write novels? Read lots and
Read
lots
lots
of
and
novels.
lots of
Right.
novels.
So read. You want to write poetry? Read
Read
lots and
lots
lots
and
of
lots of
poetry
poetry.
because reading it helps you, me, or whoever's reading it, to learn, get an idea of the rhythm of the
Mm,
words and how to begin the story so that kids will want to read it, right? Because you know
yeah.
what? I'll bet, Ariel, when you open a book, if the first few lines are boring, you're like, all right, next book. Because you have a busy life. You don't have time to waste on boring books. So,
Um, yeah, I don't really first flip to the first page. The thing with me is I flip to a random page in the middle of the book because who knows, the beginning could be boring and then in the middle they could be experiencing an adventure against the dragon.
okay. All right. Well, see, so you have a way already of discovering whether you're going
If
to
that
want to
book is
keep
right for
reading
me.
that book. Right, exactly, exactly. But yeah, but if you open it to the middle and that's boring, and then you might go to the beginning and that's boring, you'd be like, forget it. Or if it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, if this happens and then that happens and something else happens and it doesn't
And
come
this happened
together,
and it doesn't add up with what happened then, and I'm like, what?
right? Right. If it's confusing, right? Or if the ending, you get to the ending and you're like, so what? Then you'll be disappointed, right? You
Yeah,
won't be a fan of that book. So for me, the beginning has to engage you, the middle has to keep your attention, and the ending has to satisfy you.
you'll be like, wow, that
Yeah,
was
like
a
wow,
marvelous book.
yay, right, exactly. That's what I want to happened, right? Or
Yeah,
oh, good, or funny if it's funny, and you laugh at the end. So yeah, I say endings should be one of three things. You either go, aha, like it's a surprise, or
yeah,
you go, ha ha ha, because it's funny, or you go, oh, because it's like, oh, it's so heartfelt, right? So
yeah,
one of those endings is always good.
yeah. Well, that's certainly true. And I think one of the other ones should be like, whoa, like, yes.
Yes.
Cause like, yeah, yes is one of them, true. Cause
Yeah, right. I like,
this happened
yes,
against this like battle and then they won and you're like, yes.
right. Exactly. Yeah, good. Right. So see, what you're saying is exactly what a book has to do in order to succeed. It has to connect
Yeah.
with the audience, right? You have to become connected. You have to get emotionally involved in the story in order to enjoy it.
Mm,
And then it means
you're
something
like,
to you. So,
you have to be like,
yeah, like,
whoa, and then what's gonna happen
wow.
here? And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, you must read like so much. I mean, a lot.
Last year I got 553.
Wow. Wow. Good for you. And you're not only reading them, but you're actually thinking about them and you're sharing them, which I
Reviewing
think
them,
is
yeah.
just amazing.
I mean,
I
if
love
I write a
that.
good book and I keep it to myself, what good is that? The author's
Right,
not going to benefit from it. I'm not going to benefit from it. No one else is going to benefit from it.
right. Yep,
I
yep,
mean, yeah. So what do you do for fun other than reading, of course? Because if you want to write, like you said, you got to read, 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 and you have to love it.
right,
You have to be
right.
emotionally engaged.
Yep, exactly. What else did I do? I love walking. I
Mhm.
love traveling. I've been around the world. It's very exciting. I
Exciting.
love, yeah, I love eating yummy food.
Yeah,
I love watching movies.
same.
I I love playing ping pong. And I love ice cream.
Are you going to be writing any more books in the future?
Yes, I am. I'm so glad you asked, Ariel. So I'll show you the cover of my newest book that's coming out next week.
Downstairs. Oh, next week. Wow.
Like how I get my ideas, like where do I get my ideas from, right?
Mm,
Sometimes I'm scrolling the internet and I see a picture or something. And this book actually started because of From Here to There, because one of the stories in From Here to There is about the bike,
I
the
know. I
first
remember that
bike.
one.
Yeah, the first bike, and like how interesting of why the guy invented it and how he invented it and like how it, and the editor said,
Mm,
I'd really like to have a book about women and biking. Like, how did the bike help women to become more independent, right?
mm.
Because in like years ago,
Yeah,
women were
but
not
yeah.
independent. And so I wrote a story about free women and bikes, and she didn't like it. So she said, pick one of the women. So I picked this woman, Annie Londonderry, and I wrote that story, and she didn't like that either.
Mhm.
So we sent it to another editor. And that's how it is, you know? I mean, not every editor is going to like every
Yeah,
story.
true. I mean, like, there are going to be critics and there are going to be lovers, but what you want to
Right,
do is try and make sure the lovers is at least a one more of a greater number.
right. All you need is one editor to say yes. So that editor said yes. And this is a story about a woman who had never ridden a bike. She'd never ridden a bike. She was 24 years old. She never rode a bike. It was 1894. So, you know, women were wearing long dresses,
Mhm.
yeah,
Skirts
long
and
dresses, right?
yeah.
And, but, you know, she heard that somebody was going to pay $10,000 for the first woman to ride a bike around the world. And $10,000 was a lot of money in 1894. She
Still
said,
is.
I'm going to do it. She said, I'm going to do it. And so she got a bike. She took 2 lessons and she rode that bike around the world. Amazing. And she had, wow, I know. So her name was Annie Londonderry and she lives in Boston. And yeah, and she was an immigrant. She had come to this country from somewhere else with her family when she was little. But it's such a fun story and it's got
Oh,
amazing,
wow. Oh,
yeah, because she goes around the world and
wait, around the world? How did she get past the water?
so she was allowed to take boats.
Ah,
She was allowed to take trains if there was no, like,
half.
through the desert or something. And there weren't really roads because 1894 there were no cars
True.
and no
That must
buses
have been
and no,
hard.
yeah, it was hard. But
That's
anyway,
perfect.
but she did it. She does it. And here's actually a picture of her that
Oh,
she was a
wow.
real woman. And I was very lucky. I got to meet her great grandnephew. Yes, her great grandnephew, and he wrote a book about
Well, that
George.
certainly helps.
Yeah. So I read his, so his is like a novel book, and I
Mm.
read his book. I got to meet him, and he's lovely. And yeah, so this book is coming out in a week, and I'm very excited. And then I have 2 more books coming out next year, and another
That's
book
lovely.
coming
I
out the
can't wait
year
to read
after.
them.
I know, yay.
Uh,
So I'm always writing. I'm always busy.
well, that's actually lovely because, another thing that I get along with read is write, write, write. And so read and write.
Read and write.
Thank you so much for taking your time with this interview. It was a lovely talking and meeting with you. It was so fun that I've lost track of time, and now I think there's less than 1 minute says. on this.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time.